stuff. So, well, cool, man.
Definitely.
Cool. Well, it's great to meet you. Where are you natively from?
North Carolina, I'm from the beach, the coast, so like
Okay.
the Wilming, I'm not sure if you're familiar with North Carolina, but Wilmington area.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not, but the Carolinas are a place that I'd love to get to. So, but yeah, man, it's great to meet you. There's so much that's going in, like everything that you do just spills off the page. So let's get to the heart and soul of what you do. And to begin that, I want to know, we're on our 4-year anniversary of this pandemic right now. Let's go back to 2020. How did you survive the pandemic, and how did it subsequently change you?
So the pandemic was really stressful for me. We actually had my wife and I had planned, well, she was my fiance at the time, and we had planned to get married in 2020 before the pandemic ever hit. And we had to, the regulations started coming down and we had to change our wedding. The venue got shut down. So we had to replan a wedding in our backyard with 2 weeks left before the date, cut our guest list down from 150 to 70. So
Wow.
we had to literally cut it in half. And then later the next year, I actually lost my job for refusing to do something illegal. And the way that the pandemic really helped me there was my wife had started working remotely and she found a remote job and I was a little jealous. So I went out and find that was my excuse to find a remote job. So I went out and found a remote job. And then from there, the rest is history. We sold our house and moved into the RV.
Good work, man. Yeah, that's I think there's a lot of silver linings that came out of it. For all of the woe that we went through, I think it really pushed us all to be like, all right, we're the leave behinds. We're the ones still on this planet. Let's do it
Right.
right. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
let's get to the heart and soul of being a president, a publisher, an author, a blogger, a podcaster, and just an overall professional. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders. It's career day. And one of the little curious kids says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
So I do a lot of little things. I like to write books. I like to publish books. So I help other people write books, and we go through all the stages of the publishing process. So editing, formatting, cover design, the artwork that goes behind it, the different pictures you see in the books, the different ways that books are formatted, and the words you read on the page. I also like to write blogs, which are, I write about mental health and traveling and all kinds of fun stuff like that, writing and give people tips and tricks on how to best handle their mental health, how to best practices for writing and tips and tricks for traveling, things like that. Also a podcaster.
Yeah,
So I have a Cook the Books podcast, which is through Tea with Coffee Media, which is my publishing company.
right on. So, what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream?
A veterinarian. I wanted to be a
Okay.
veterinarian. Yeah, that was always my dream. I still love animals, but always wanted to help animals. Now I'm helping people.
It's either a vet, a cop, or a firefighter. Astronaut.
Yes,
Top four.
astronaut.
Yes, totally. So, talk to me a little bit about your childhood and how you became kind of an entrepreneur, a busybody, a creator. How did all of these seeds get planted to grow into who you are today?
Yeah, my childhood, I didn't exactly have the best childhood. I had some personal trauma that happened to me as I was growing up. And, but I got through it with the support of my mom, my grandparents, and my brother. Part of that was seeing my grandmother and my grandfather, who were these two working people that were helping support my mom, who was a single mom raising two kids. She had not dropped out of high school, but she had quit college and was just focused on taking care of us. And my grandfather eventually left his job to start his own business. And that was just always an inspiration for me. My grandfather on my dad's side of the family, he also has his own business. And I've just always loved the thought of working for myself instead of, because I'm putting in all this time for somebody else's dream. Why would I not put in the time for my own dream? And so entrepreneurship was an obvious route, especially after I lost my job in 2022 or 2021. And it was it was really natural. It came. I'm marketing by trade. That's what I went to school for, and business analytics is what I have my master's degree in. So I did a lot of management in college. I managed restaurants, and so I've got a little bit of experience in everything. My biggest weakness is finance and accounting. That hurts my head. So
I understand, man. I understand. When you got a lot of right brain going on, that can hurt the left real hard.
yes,
So, who's been a hero for you? Who's been the inspiration for you to become who you are today?
my grandmother. I call her Mama. She has been the biggest inspiration in my life. She's always inspired me to be better, be bigger. My grandfather, like I mentioned, was a great inspiration. He unfortunately passed away in April of 2023. And rest in peace to Grandy. He was such a strong man. He taught me everything I know about being a good person, about being a man, about being the best possible version of myself. My grandmother always pushed me to be better. She inspired my writing. She encouraged me. She always believed in me. So my grandparents have been my biggest motivators, my biggest inspiration in my life because their unwavering belief in me has been inspiring to me, and it's made me feel like I'm capable of doing anything that I want to do, despite what my mental illness tells me I'm capable of.
So, if you could meet one person alive on the planet right now that you find cool, inspirational, fascinating, who would that be?
So, oh man, can I choose somebody who's passed away?
Oh yeah, we can open the door up to ghosts.
All right, all right. Yeah, if I could meet a ghost, it would be Chester Bennington, the former lead singer of Linkin Park. He
Oh yeah.
was he committed suicide a couple years ago, and he saved my life. He really did. His music, Linkin Park's music, inspired me as a kid. It gave me hope that I wasn't alone because before I found their music, I was undiagnosed mentally ill and was going through these thoughts that I thought were crazy thoughts that made me so weird and different that I kept to myself. And then I started listening to their music. I'm like, that's exactly how I feel. So if I could just sit down with Chester and just pick his brain, figure out, and especially now, if I could meet the ghost version of him to figure out, what pushed you to that point when you seemingly have everything, and just to know, that there is hope, and to try to get some inspiration from him that, because I'm sure if he could come back and redo it all over again, he'd probably tell you, your life is valuable. Don't let anybody take that from you.
It's kind of like Chris Cornell from Soundgarden. It's like
Yes.
he was kind of, and Cornell, one of his last shows was in Kansas City. We have a friend of ours that lives
Nice.
next to the theater, Starlight Amphitheater. It's an outdoor amphitheater, and she heard the whole concert and was like, they were on
Wow.
fire.
I
Um,
bet.
the weird thing about Chester is that I'm an IT guy by day. And when I started my job here, my boss at the time was a big Linkin Park fan, but he had read an article in Wired. Chester had set his passwords up for the same thing, and it was not a really strong password, and he got totally hacked, and it was a big deal. That was
Wow.
yeah, it was a big deal early on in his life. Like he got real militant about how he did cybersecurity and all of that. So I was really
Yeah.
mad about him. Yeah. So, and I'd imagine when you're a big celebrity like that too, more people are gunning for finding out where your stuff is and all of that. Um,
Yes.
so let me ask you this: every day you wake up, what is your motivation to be in the RV, to be an entrepreneur, to grow yourself, to evolve? What are all the motivating factors that make you who you are?
So the biggest motivating factor is taking care of my family. And by that, I mean my wife, Gracie, and my three dogs, Rocky, Dutch, and Belle. You know, being able to take care of them, to grow my love and my relationship with them, and to be able to financially support them in a way that allows them the freedom to do the things that they love. For my dogs, going to dog parks during the day, getting nice treats. For my wife, letting her be able to travel and do things and not have to worry about work one day. The ultimate goal is to be able to solely, for me and my wife, to solely be working for just us and not and focusing on our blog and our publishing company And my writing and her social media presence and being able to build that up to a spot where it supports us. I'm not out to make $1 million. I don't care how much money I make as long as I've got enough money to pay my bills and get some craft beer and coffee at the end of the day,
There you go. Yeah.
Um, and then the secondary motivating factor is helping other people. My blog is, like I mentioned, a lot about mental health, and I love being able to support other people, give them hope, like Chester gave to me. My travel blog, so many people tell me they love living vicariously through our travel blog and seeing all the places that we're going. And then my PR and marketing company, the Wittkofsky Company, we specialize in nonprofits because I've spent a lot of time serving on boards for nonprofits like the North Brunswick Chamber of Commerce, Writers and Publishers Network, and communities and schools. I've volunteered for organizations like Right Hive and NAMI. I have a passion for helping nonprofits. And that's why with the Wittkofsky Company, we specialize in that because I want to be able to affordably help these nonprofits get the word out there to help them build event participation and monetary donations and be able to do better work and more work. And it's not, necessarily the big organizations like the Red Cross. I'm trying to find the smaller nonprofits that are just starting off that need a lot of help in their marketing and public relations that can't afford to hire somebody full time. Being able to provide those services to nonprofits like that. And, with Tea with Coffee Media, we help a lot of debut authors. I think most of our authors were debut published authors the last year. And this year we've got quite a few that are debut authors again. And we just love helping the indie community raise up and lift up because, one thing I always say is I wasn't born to work 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. I was born to eat fruit and make art.
Nice. So let me ask you this. What's been your favorite book that you've ever written, like, or read, I should say? The one that's always inspired you or you come back to?
To Kill a Mockingbird. To
Nice.
Kill a Mockingbird, it's a classic, and it's one of those books that you read in high school that, a lot of people are like, "Oh, I have to read a book," and I started reading the book and I finished it in like a week, and it was so good. I've got like 4 or 5 different copies of it with different covers, hard covers, soft covers, special editions. So, I love that book. It's so inspiring, and it really taught me things whenever I was going through school and at a young age, because I'm from the South, where there's very conservative views, and some of those views are not necessarily nothing wrong with conservative views in particular, but the far right views is what I should say. Some very extreme ideals that I was influenced by as a kid. And reading that book, it made me realize like everybody deserves to be treated equally, no matter who you are, no matter what color your skin is, no matter what gender you are. You deserve to be treated with respect and equality because we're all humans at the end of the day. And I think that book really changed my life because of that. And it made me a better person and made me more acceptant of other people and tolerance. And I think Harper Lee did fantastic. Unfortunately, I haven't read the sequel yet. I do have it, but whenever you're a publisher and you read 150 manuscripts a year, you don't
Yeah.
really have time to read anything
Yeah, that's
else.
true. I had no idea that Harper Lee had a good, solid relationship with Truman Capote. She actually convinced him to write In Cold Blood. They were good pals.
Wow,
Yeah,
did
you should
not know that.
look into that. Yeah, it's interesting because I had no idea. So let me ask you this. Of all of these places that you've been to in the RV, what was the most surprising place that you've been to so far? You just didn't expect it to be the way it was.
Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Okay.
We absolutely loved Hot Springs, and the campground that we stayed at, J&J RV Campground and Storage, was amazing. And the owner, JJ, is such a good guy. Me and him, whenever we first got there, and we sat in with him and chatted for like 30 minutes, just talking about life and laughing and joking. And he put us on a spot that was backed up to a running creek. So all night, our bed is in the back of the RV, so we're backed up to this creek, and all night you just hear the water running down that creek, and it was
Nice.
just so beautiful. And I mean, it was really, and Hot Springs was such a wonderful town. Bathhouse Row was awesome. They've actually got a brewery at one of the bathhouses now, called Superior Bathhouse Brewery, and they are the only brewery in the United States that is allowed to use natural hot spring water in their brewing process. And you can tell a difference in their beer. It's smooth, really
Yeah.
good, really flavorful. But yeah, Hot Springs was a big surprise. We loved it though.
Yeah. So of all of the things that you've done in your life, all of the things that you've overcome and evolved into, what are you the proudest of?
I think I'm the proudest of becoming a mental health advocate because, one thing I was always ashamed of my mental health growing up. I didn't know what quite was wrong with me until 2015, whenever I was graduating college and I was diagnosed bipolar. And I was so ashamed of it for so long until I wrote my first novella, Not Alone. And once I wrote it, it initially started as a challenge for my grandma. I moved in with her while my house was being built. And she asked me one day, she's like, "Are you still writing?" Because I used to write little books for her and stuff like that. Um, and so I put together that book and I let other people read it, people close to me, people who I knew wouldn't judge me. And they all said the same thing. They're like, "This book is so inspiring. You need to publish it." And I thought about it for a couple of weeks because that's a big step for me. I was, again, ashamed of my mental illness. I wasn't sure. Nobody really knew that I was mentally ill. Nobody really knew the problems that I had. They thought I had this great life, this perfect job, and all this stuff. But I finally decided, you know what? I'm going to publish this book and I'm going to make a difference in people's lives. And man, am I glad I did, because it made me develop into this person who was, not necessarily proud of my mental illness, but accepting of my mental illness. It is part of who I am. And we all have traits that, maybe we aren't proud of, or we consider negative traits. And that's okay. We're allowed to have those because we're human. We're not perfect, we're imperfect. And I think that's what makes this journey called life so fun, is being able to discover your imperfections and work on ways to better yourself, kind of like a video game. You're going through this whole thing trying to level up every time and
Yep.
become the best possible version of yourself, so at the end of the day, you can win the game.
Absolutely. Well said. So everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, your clients, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
That's a really good question. I tell people all the time, for me personally, I'm a jack of all trades, master of none, but that's better than a master of one,
Yeah.
because I'd rather be really good at a whole lot of things than excellent at only one thing and at a bunch of other things. So I try to really take pride in my ability to be a Swiss Army knife and come in and be this person who is able to take care of you while also writing and giving you inspiration and running businesses and doing the marketing and writing my books and writing my blogs and traveling in the RV and going to all these different places and putting together these blog posts and these social media posts. It's fun. And I think that's ultimately what I'm trying to do in life, is use my skill set to have fun while I'm also making a living.
So if anyone wants to delve into your writing, delve into your world, your blog, your podcast, all of these ventures, how do they do that?
So you can find me on social media at Tyler Wittkofsky. You can also find me online at tylerwittkofsky.com. But probably the best way is my link tree. Shout out to Linktree. They make everything so easy whenever you're trying to put everything into one space. But my link tree is linktr.ee/Tyler Wittkofsky, and that has a link to all my books, all my merch, all my blogs, all my companies, my socials. So that's your one-stop shop for Tyler Wittkofsky.
I like it. Tyler, this has been wonderful. You're a cool cat, man. Keep on doing the good work. Have a great time in Kansas City. Dive in, indulge, enjoy it.
Yes, thank you, Joe. We definitely will, and maybe we'll have to catch up and grab a coffee or a beer.
I'd love to, man. We can do both. Thank you, sir.
All right, thanks, Joe.
Take care. Have a good one.